This is a Shields of Shame exclusive.
Elderly Lois Howard, arrested by Canton Police in Cherokee County, Georgia, following a grocery store dispute. Howard alleges mistreatment, including being shoved into a police car, breaking her ribs. Chaos ensues at Cherokee County Detention Center as jail staff refuses admission due to Howard's injuries. Officers left her in the lobby anyways and fled the scene. Listen to the interviews and gather the facts and form your own assessment of the truth. Please visit shieldsofshame.com for behind-the-scenes content. Thank you for supporting our work. Also consider becoming a member. It's just 99 cents a month, and you will have access to bonus content and early releases.
All right. Today's date is May 24th, 2021. The time now is 9:57 a.m. In the room is myself, Sergeant Tiffany Cromer, and Officer Erin Leonard in reference to an internal affairs investigation interview. Okay. All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and go in depth into more of kind of what this is about. All right. On May the 21st, it's my understanding that y'all were dispatched, is that correct, to the Publix where
Yes.
Lois Howard and Jerry Jones were?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Once y'all got to the jail, there was a situation that occurred there at the jail. All right, so that's what this internal affairs investigation is about, is the situation as to what occurred from the time you arrived to the jail and then from the time that, you know, you left Lois Howard where you left her. Okay? So that's what this is about. Now, what I want for you to do is start to finish, upon getting dispatched, run me through the entire thing.
Okay. So we got sent to the Publix for Jerry and Lois. I guess Publix employees were concerned that they shoplift, so they called us out there for them. I was informed that there was a criminal trespass order for Lois only, not Jerry, from the Publix property, and we had been called out to her twice in addition the night before, where we couldn't find that criminal trespass order, but another officer had a picture of it on the phone. So we went out there and we immediately, Officer Overbay put Lois under arrest for the criminal trespass. I was issuing Jerry, they were both going to get citations for the city ordinance of loitering, because now they're raising suspicion that the store's property is going to get stolen.
They were both going to get citations for the city ordinance of loitering, because now they're raising suspicion that the store's property is going to get stolen.
By them hanging around there when they're all closed. So I issued Jerry a citation. Officer Overbay put Lois in handcuffs, searched Lois, put her in the back of my car. I went over to give Jerry his citation. He was signing the citation. And then I heard Lois scream, so I turned around, but Officer Salas was there as well, so he went over to help Officer Overbay. So Jerry signed a citation. I went back to the car, and then all of a sudden Jerry was asking for an ambulance to go to the hospital. So I went back to Jerry, and I very firmly, and probably not as nice as I should have been, told him that he can't just choose, because he asked me originally to go to jail with Lois. So I told him you can't just choose to go to jail, and then you can't just choose to go to the hospital every time you can't find somewhere to stay, because they had just done the same thing the night before after a taxi was called out to them, and then they refused to get in the taxi. And they had also done that previously with day shift officers. So I told him that about the misuse of 911, very firmly explained it to him that he can't just choose to go to the hospital if he has no issues. He can't just choose to go to jail just because Lois is going to jail. And so he said he was okay with that, whatever. I think he ended up going to the hospital, I'm not sure, because Salas stayed with him while we transported Lois. So we transported Lois to the jail. The whole time, I can't remember exactly what she was saying in the back of the car, but it was about her not doing anything wrong. So we get to the jail. Officer Overbay takes her into the jail. Well, I write her citation for loitering. So he's in the jail, and she wasn't crying or anything. And then I walked in the jail, and the nurse was refusing her already. And so that couldn't have been. The
nurse refused her?
Yeah. So that couldn't have been more than like maybe 2 or 3 minutes of her being in the jail that he already said she needed to go to the hospital. So
why did they refuse her?
Because she said she had a broken rib. And she had just been to the hospital the night before. And according to Jerry, they walked in the hospital and then they walked out and never got seen.
Okay.
So I asked the nurse, I asked her why he refused her. And he said, because she has a broken rib.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
You know, I shouldn't have been as mad as I was.
Just breathe. It's okay.
So I told him, I said, she's not going to go to the hospital. She went to the hospital last night. There's nothing wrong with her.
Right.
She's fine. This is what she does. And so, because either the corporal or the sergeant that was there was like, well, if you're refusing her, they have to refuse.
Okay, just calm down. It's all right.
So the deputy, basically they have to refuse her if the nurse says they have to refuse her.
Okay.
So he refused her based on the consensus that she said she had a broken rib and needed to be evaluated. Okay. So I told the deputy, I said, this is bullshit.
Okay.
And I said that a few times, that it was bullshit, and I explained to him, I'm like, this is what she does. She doesn't want to be here. She says she has a broken rib. There's nothing wrong with her. She's fine. Right. She never said anything about a broken rib or anything until the nurse was looking at her. Then all of a sudden she had a broken rib. So the nurse wouldn't take her.
Okay.
Which, I think I was just fed up with the nurse refusing them for ridiculous reasons, because a week or two before we brought someone who was so drugged up on Ativan she couldn't stand up, and they took her. And so just because she says, I have a broken rib, you don't take her. There was nothing wrong with her prior to that. So then Lois started crying after she was being taken out of handcuffs.
Okay.
So I told her, I said, stop your crocodile tears. You're not staying here. You're getting what you want. Like, you're not staying in jail. So they took her out of handcuffs. I told her to get her purse. Officer Overbay took her back out to the car. I guess she had made a comment about Jerry. She said, Jerry, she did nothing wrong. Jerry's a bad man. She never does anything wrong. She's a good Christian woman. She didn't know who I was. She was fine.
Okay.
So Officer Overbay took her back out to the car, and I looked at I was talking to, I don't know if he's a sergeant or a corporal, but his name starts with an I.
Alright.
I told him, I was like, this is bullshit. I was like, something needs to change. Like, they're getting refused all the time for ridiculous reasons. This is bullshit. And I made a comment, and I know I shouldn't have, about the nurse not being a real nurse, and this is why he's in a jail. This is why he's in a jail, and whoever I was talking to said that nothing's going to change unless the bosses talk to the bosses. So I said, that's fine, because every time y'all refuse someone for a bullshit reason, it goes straight up the chain. Because I know before someone else got refused for something, and Yurkovsky said that from now on, every time they get refused, it's just going to get sent up, because it's getting ridiculous. We can't bring anyone in jail. There's no uniformity in who they refuse. And so it's like, we can't really go out and do our job, because they're just not going to take them when they get there. And so I was just frustrated, and then I made a comment. The nurse wouldn't even look me in the eyes, and apparently they're not allowed to look us in the eyes, which I don't know if that's true, because I've had other ones look me in the eyes when I'm trying to figure out why they're refusing them, because there's nothing wrong with them.
Why can't the nurse look you in the eyes?
Whoever I was talking to said that they're not supposed to.
Okay.
And so Officer Overbay had brought Lois Howard back out, and then another deputy came out, and I was talking to him. I'm like, this is bullshit. I was like, she does this every time.
1 second. Hold on. I need you to be able to breathe.
So I was talking to another deputy. I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, this happens all the time.
Okay.
Like, they're refusing them for no reason at all. She's perfectly fine. So then I guess she made a comment to Overbay about wanting a ride to Jasper. But he said we couldn't drive her to Jasper. And I believe that's based off the fact that she was just provided a ride all the way to Jasper within the past couple weeks, and they chose to come back. So she said, that's fine, my sister will pick me up and bring me to Jasper. So we left her at the front of the jail. And that was under my... And I explained to the deputy, I said, well, I'm going to drop her off at the front of the jail, because she's not going to go to the hospital. She never said she wanted to go to the hospital. She wanted to go back to Jasper. And we'll drop her off at the front of the jail, and then when she calls back, the county's going to have to come out and figure that out. And I know I shouldn't have done that. That's on me. So then we left her. We dropped her off at the front of the jail where, like, the sidewalk area is, the front office is. And then I guess she called back when we got back here and said that we broke her ribs and wanted to go to the hospital.
Was she still at the jail when she called?
Apparently she walked across the street to the animal shelter.
Okay.
And that's where she called.
Okay.
And that's just that's why I only know that because Ayers had called me and said that he wanted to know if our cameras were downloaded, and I said they were still downloading, and apparently she was saying that we broke her ribs, when she had just told us that Jerry, when she just said it was Jerry when we were in the jail.
Okay. All right. You said that Lois said her sister could come and pick her up.
Yeah, she told Officer Leonard her sister was going to pick her up and bring her back to Jasper.
Okay. Do you know if she made contact with her sister at all?
I have no idea.
Do you know if she has a way of making contact?
She
with
had her phone with her.
Okay. All right. So, when you were speaking to them, there was a conversation that you were having. It was after Overbay had placed Lois back in the vehicle. He comes back in the jail, and you're standing right there at the door. And you said something, this is bullshit, I'm just going to drop her off at the front of the jail. Who were you on the phone with?
Ayers.
Ayers, okay.
Because he had called. Yeah, he had called, and I told him, I was like, they're refusing her. And he was like, well, and I was like, well, this is bullshit. There's nothing wrong with her. I'm just going to bring her to the front of the jail.
Okay. And what did he say?
I honestly can't remember what he said after that.
Right. And so, did they instruct you not to drop her off at the front of the jail?
Yeah.
Okay.
He advised against it because then he'd have to tell his lieutenant why we dropped her off at the front of the jail.
Okay.
Or something along those lines. I don't remember his exact wording.
Okay.
And that's when I told him that we bring her to the front, we'll drop her off there, and that way when she calls back, the county will have to respond out there.
Okay. Was there anyone in the front lobby? Did she go, did y'all take her in the lobby? So you just left her there on the
left
sidewalk?
her on the sidewalk to call her sister.
Okay, was there anyone around? Anyone around there?
When we had pulled back up to the front, there were a couple people I guess a guy was getting released maybe, because there was someone walking out of the front.
Okay, alright. Did y'all request EMS to come to the jail
No.
at any point?
No.
Okay. Did the nurse staff request to have EMS come?
No. The nurse just told us she couldn't stay at the jail. She had to go to the hospital to get evaluated before she could be accepted at the jail.
Okay.
And we tried to take pictures of her bruises, and she said, I don't even have any, or I don't know where they are. She had no bruises for broken ribs or anything.
Okay.
And his paper said that he refused her based off her saying, I have a broken rib, and that she had bruise on her eye, but it was her mascara had been smeared all over the bottom of her eye. Because I saw that when I first looked at her, it wasn't a bruise, it was her makeup was all jacked up.
Okay, it was all over her eye. Okay, alright. Why didn't you call an ambulance to the jail?
I don't have a reason.
In order to keep you from having to transport. I mean, I know that they're right there. You know what I
Well, she
mean?
never told us she wanted to go to the hospital. She said that her sister was going to pick her up from Jasper. The only time she ever talked about a broken rib was to the jail nurse. She never told us she had a broken rib. When we tried to take pictures of her, she said she didn't know what it was.
Okay.
And that's when she said that her sister was going to pick her up to bring her back to Jasper, was when we were at the front of the jail.
Was there... Alright, so with Jerry, y'all called an ambulance and Salos stayed there.
Yeah, because he said he needed to go to the hospital because he was having heart pain.
Okay. Do you see the similarity here? We've got an ambulance and an officer staying with this person, and they're having heart pain. We just left a jail where a nurse staff refused Lois Howard, and we're dropping her off in a parking lot.
Yeah.
Do you see the issue we have here?
Yes.
That's why I'm saying I know we work together on the road. It's common practice. If someone's having a medical issue, take them, drop them off at the hospital.
See, we were told to ask them, do they want to go home or the hospital?
Okay.
That we can't force them to go to the hospital if the nurse refuses them, even if the nurse says they have to go to the hospital.
Right.
We were told to see if they want to go home or the hospital. So she never said she wanted to go hospital when she said her sister
Who
would
told
come.
you that? They to go home or go to the hospital?
Supervisors.
Do you know which ones? Who?
Lieutenant Campbell. But I think that stemmed from an incident where the jail refused someone and they just brought him back to the hospital, but then they raised hell at the hospital because they didn't want to go to the hospital. And so it came down to, if they're not in our custody, then...
You have to take them to the same place.
Yeah.
That's
I
what it
understand we
comes
can't
down
leave
to.
them there, but
Right.
we can't force them to go to the hospital.
Okay. That's what it comes down to, a safe place. My concern, Lois Howard is not of sound mind. We all know that.
Not at all.
And if she's complaining of something medical, we have to make sure we have to make sure she's okay. And dropping her off in the parking lot's not the way to go.
I understand.
All right. My next question is the body cameras.
Yes.
I have never seen so much craziness. Before y'all even leave the parking lot to transfer Lois, you deactivate your camera. Why?
When we left, what parking lot?
The Publix parking lot.
I've always just shut it off when I get in the car with any transport because the in-car one's recording both front and back.
The problem is there's no in-car of that transport that I can find. Pulling up to the ADC, yeah, it's on there, but it's not on anywhere. That's why I'm asking.
It should have been on the whole time because if I remember correctly, I turned it on when Overbay got out of the car because he forgot to activate the in-car camera.
When?
When we pulled up to Publix.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Please consider subscribing.
And as far as I know, it wasn't shut off the whole time that we were transporting Lois. So it shouldn't have been shut off until we get to the ADC.
Maybe there's something wrong with downloading. Maybe while you're here, there's things to do, but I haven't been able to locate that.
Okay.
All I've been able to find is y'all coming up to the gate, coming in, and then it shut off before y'all go in. Have you ever activated it again upon going into the jail?
Only if they're disorderly.
Okay.
Or there's something further that would need to be.
Okay.
Gotcha.
From now on, that thing stays on until you leave that jail.
Okay.
That's how that works. That's how that goes.
Okay.
All right. Did you see any bruises on Lois Howard?
No.
Okay.
Overbay even took a picture to attach the report of the alleged bruised ribs.
All right, I saw that. Where's Overbay's report?
I don't believe he did one.
Okay, why didn't he do one? You're his FTO, why didn't he do one?
I never instructed him to do one.
Okay, why?
I don't have a good reason. I figured just
Because he did everything when it came down to Lois Howard.
Yeah.
Why isn't it documented? If he's the one that handcuffs her, if he's the one that puts, or puts her in the truck, pats her down the whole 9 yards, now she's saying it's officers that's hurt her. I think that report's probably a very potent, something that we need, something that should have been done regardless of we're sitting here or not.
I agree.
He's got to do those.
Yes.
He's got to make sure he does I don't care if it's on a simple informational, covers you regardless.
I understand.
Also, when you were talking to this gentleman, the sergeant or the corporal that starts with an I, have you had any previous issues with him before?
Never.
Okay.
I mean, we've had issues with the nurses refusing people, and I've always explained to him, I'm like, this is ridiculous. And he almost knew it was ridiculous because he kind of laughed about it. But I've never had any issues with him.
Have you ever had any issues with that nurse before?
I don't know if it's that one specifically, but I've had issues with them refusing people for really no reason at all.
Okay, all right. So what made you so mad? What got you so amped up?
Because it's just a constant, there's nothing wrong with her.
It's okay.
Because then it was like,
This is a Shields of Shame exclusive.
I think it was just the final straw, because it's a constant thing with the nurses at the jail refusing people for there's no uniformity in what they refuse people for. It's like, they'll take someone with a blood alcohol of 0.26, but then they'll refuse someone that's a 0.17. There's no uniformity between them ever, and it's frustrating on the road, because you want us to go out here and do our job and make these arrests and do these great things, but then we can't even really do our job because they're refusing them. And I've physically watched a guy get wheeled in a wheelchair after he had a use of force in the county, and they took him. But then we bring someone and all she has to say is, I have a broken rib, and they can't take him. When 2 weeks before, we brought in a 17-year-old girl that was so doped up on Ativan she couldn't stand up. They had to carry her into the jail, and they took her. And then you have someone who's on a certain blood pressure medicine, and they refuse them.
Okay. Is this the same personnel?
I think it's the same jail or like nurse company. It's always the nurses that refuse them. The actual deputies don't ever refuse them.
Okay, so it's not the deputies refusing them, it's the nurses.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where the frustration
But the
was.
deputies
Is that
have
the
to
nurses,
go off of what the nurse
yeah,
are
the
saying.
deputies can't keep them. If the nurse says we have to refuse them.
Okay, alright.
Like if there was something legitimately wrong with her, I could get it.
Mm-hmm.
But just because I say I have a broken rib, that's how I'm gonna get out of jail.
Okay.
So I think it was just the final straw because it's like ongoing all the time. Like we had a guy.
Okay, but see, the thing is, Leonard, you can't talk to these people like this.
I know.
The bullshit, and I'm gonna drop them off at the jail just to spite them. We can't have this type of behavior. That's the problem here.
I know.
I don't care how upset you get or how mad you get, and I've told you this more than once. You cannot act like this. You can't do it. What it comes down to is we depend on that jail
Yeah.
to house these people. I understand we have a tough time getting them in there. I can understand that can be frustrating. But you can't allow it to affect you the way that you did that night.
I understand.
That's something we cannot have again. Okay? Because if not, you're not going to be allowed to go back to that jail.
I understand.
They're talking about not allowing you to go back to that jail. Do you understand that?
I understand.
And that's an issue.
Yes.
And we can't have that. All right. Overbay. When he was in the jail, did he speak to any of the staff there? I mean, other than like, here's the stuff, you know, blah, 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 blah. Was he involved in the communication that you were?
Not that I recall. I don't know. He was only in there by himself for a couple minutes before I walked in, but I don't believe he had anything to say.
Okay.
I know that when I was in there and he wasn't saying anything.
Okay. Did Ayers talk to anyone in the jail that you know of? Did you hand the phone off to somebody? Did you?
No, not on my phone.
Okay.
I don't know if he got a call or anything after we had left that morning.
And who all did you deal with in the jail? You dealt with the nurse?
The nurse.
Okay. Sergeant I or Corporal I?
It's like Embrigongo, something like that. And then those are the only main two. And then Deputy CRC had walked out just as I was about to leave. But he didn't really say anything.
Okay. Was anyone else in that room other than who you just stated?
I don't remember if the two female booking deputies were still there or not. But they're the ones that had originally patted Lois down and searched her while the nurse was in there. I don't know their names.
Okay.
It's an older blonde lady and then a brown haired lady who's really tall and skinny.
Okay. All right. So you say that Ayers told you that they went back out with her after all this occurred?
When me and Overbay were about to pull out of here to leave, Ayers called me wanting to know about our body cameras or whatever, and I guess dispatch called him to tell him that Lois called back to say that she needed to go to the hospital because we broke her ribs.
Okay. That y'all needed to go back?
No, that
Who?
the deputy or the dispatch called Ayers to tell Ayers that she needed, or Lois called back saying that she needed an ambulance because
Okay.
we broke her ribs.
Alright.
No one was asking anyone to go back.
Alright.
And then he said that she was at the animal shelter.
Do you know if County went out there with her?
I'm not sure if County did. I'm sure an ambulance went and picked her up.
Do you remember what you specifically stated as far as this is bullshit? Do you remember what you said?
I think I just kept saying that this is bullshit, there's nothing wrong with her, she's fine, this is what she does, she doesn't want to stay here, so she's going to tell you she has to go somewhere else. And
Okay.
I think that was the gist of it.
Is this the first time you've ever dropped somebody off at the front of the jail like this?
No, I dropped off another guy that they refused for high blood pressure, but his ride was already at the Ollie's where I had stopped the car. He had already contacted someone before I left
Before you left
the jail.
jail? Okay. So you dropped them off. You dropped him off at the front of the jail.
At the same place,
And the guy
yeah.
came from Ollie's to get
That's
him?
where his ride was. I didn't wait for his ride.
Okay, alright. Do you remember that guy's name?
Terry Logan, I think he still has a warrant out. He's the one they refused because his blood pressure medication wasn't a medication that the jail has. That's what I'm telling you. I think he was prescribed like Eliquis or something, and the nurse said that he needed to come back with his prescription. And so they refused him. And then I actually ran into a Pickens County guy the other day. They were looking for him because the address he gave us was a bogus address.
Okay. So that was confusing. Okay. Where did the idea of dropping him off at the front of the jail come from?
Well, I did it with that first guy just because he lived all the way up in Jasper and his ride that was already right there. So I just did that.
So you just chose to do that again?
Yeah.
Okay. What time was it that morning? Do you remember?
It was probably Lois? Probably 1:30 or so. Maybe a little after 1:30 because we left right after that call. We went home.
All right. Did you specifically go out with her the night before?
Yeah. Or me and Overbay got called out to her the night before. They were wanting a ride back to
Where were they
Jasper
there?
at Publix. They were sitting
Publix,
on the
okay.
bench right in front of Publix. So we went out with her before, explained to her a taxi's on the way. They agreed that they were going to get into the taxi. Both of them were on board. They were going back to Jasper. They weren't coming back. And then I guess we had that thing where the guy busted out the windows over on Myra Place. So while we were over there, dispatch went back over the radio saying that the taxi driver was calling because they were refusing to get in the taxi, even though they already had said they wanted the taxi and that they were going to get in the taxi. And so then Ayers told the taxi driver just to leave. So then maybe not even an hour or so later, Crow got called back out there because now they both needed to go to the hospital. And they were still in front of Publix when Crow went out there. And they both went up to the hospital. And I don't know how they got back over there.
Do you know who criminally trespassed her from Publix?
I believe it was Porter. And Rogers had the picture of it on her phone. Because on the way to... So the night before we tried to find it in the system, but I could only find 5 and none of them were for Publix. So then when we got called back out there this night, I had dispatch ask the employees if they wanted them criminally trespassed. And then Rogers... they were on a 54 person at the Walgreens, so we stopped there just on the way, and Rogers had the picture on her phone that said that they were criminally trespassed. So then I pulled up the case number in the ITI and was able to read where it was issued just to Lois, not to Jerry.
Okay. Do you know why it was only issued to Lois?
I think she was the only one on scene at the time.
That time?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. Girl, I hate that you're sitting here in front of me.
I know.
I hate it. But we gotta do what we gotta do at the end of the day. The best thing is, a lot of times I already have the answers to a lot of these questions I'm asking you, so being truthful is always a good
Well, I'm
thing.
not gonna lie to you.
I know that. Thank you for answering my questions honestly. Sometimes it gets difficult. It's tough, I know. Trust me. Especially when you're having to deal with what you gotta deal with out there and then your own having to deal with it at jail. I get it. But at the end of the day, you are an FTO
I know.
who just put in to be a supervisor.
And I'm better than this. And I
You
was
are better than
frustrated with
this.
myself. I just lost.
I know.
Like, I've never snapped on anybody. I was just like, it's like frustrating. Like, cause it's even more frustrating that they refuse people for us, but the county brings them in and they can't walk and they take them with open arms.
Okay.
And
Keep on. Sorry.
like, I've even had county people tell me that. Like, oh, we'll bring them in, it'll be fine.
Okay. All right. For right now, this is all the questions I got for you.
Okay.
All right. It's going to take some time. This is not going to be over tomorrow. That's, unfortunately, IAs take a little while, okay? So, if I have any further questions for you, I will call you. If you need to come in, I'll have you come in. Keep working. You're not on admin leave. But again, let me be clear. You cannot speak to anyone other than who you're sitting in front of right now about this.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm talking Jack, and I know that's tough, but you can't. Only because
Yeah.
you can't talk to your supervisors, you can't talk to everybody, you can't talk to your coworkers. Look, and it's tough, and I'm sorry, but you talk to me, okay? Me. All right. Do you have any questions for me? Is there anything that you want to say that I have not covered here?
No, I just know I was in the wrong.
Well, you know what? That happens. I've been in the wrong too, okay? It happens. But the best thing is you're honest, and we can work with honesty. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Today's date is May 28, 2021. The time now is 2:43 p.m. In the room is Officer Erin Leonard and myself, Sergeant Tiffany Cromer. This is in reference to 21 IA 035. Correction, 33. All right. I just have some follow-up questions from the IA that we previously spoke about. I do want to let you know that Gary still covered. Okay. Do you want me to do another sheet, or are you good staying underneath this one? Okay. All right. In the video, when you make the comment, they're refusing Lois Howard for another bullshit reason, we're dropping her ass off in front of the jail, so when she calls again, it's the county's issue, not mine. Okay. You're standing in front of, I guess that's the sergeant, and there's you in the jail when you're having that conversation.
The one with the glasses?
Possibly.
Yeah.
He doesn't matter.
I think he's really the only one that I had a communication
Conversation
with about this specific thing.
Okay. You motioned to Officer Obey to turn off his camera. Why?
Oh, at that point I was talking to Circe, and that wasn't about this specifically. It was just about, I guess, my frustrations. At that point everything was already over.
Okay.
So that was just a normal, like a personal conversation, I guess. Not
Okay.
so much related to anything.
So since it was a personal conversation, you were wanting him to cut off his camera.
Yeah, just because it wasn't anything pertaining to, I think it was just me talking to him as like a friend, voicing frustrations.
Okay. Do you ever remember having a conversation with Campbell about not dropping off inmates in front of the jail?
I don't recall having a conversation with him
Okay.
about not doing it, because I know when I do it, I put in my reports that I do it, and no one's ever said anything about it.
Okay. Has anyone told you not to at any point?
Not that I recall, no.
To not drop? Okay.
Because I know when I do it, I put it in my report that they were released from my custody. I dropped them off at the front of the jail, and I mean, they get approved. No one's ever said, hey, don't do this.
This conversation that you were having on the phone in the jail, again, who were you on the phone with?
Sergeant Ayers is the only person that called me while I was in the jail.
Okay. That's all the questions I have right now. End recording is 2:40.